This is an ad.
I hate
An
ads!
ad for crisp, refreshing Angry Orchard hard cider.
That is refreshing.
An ad that interrupted your podcast.
I hate being interrupted!
To remind you to stop being angry at me and crack open an Angry Orchard.
That's a good idea.
Don't get angry. Get Orchard. Angry Orchard Cider Company, LLC. AngryOrchard.com. Please drink responsibly. Angry Orchard is a hard cider with other natural flavors.
The Hansen Ratings D3 Coaching Coordinators of the Week is presented by Tully. Tully is the all-in-one player performance platform developed by former Harvard football teammates Michael Mancinelli and Adam Redman, who went on to play offensive line in the NFL. Built by players who understand the game, Tully helps coaches eliminate spreadsheets and wasted time by tracking workouts, monitoring attendance, and measuring player progress all in one simple app. From the weight room to practice, Tully streamlines communication between coaches and athletes, keeping everyone accountable and on the same page. Affordable, football-focused, and designed by guys who've lived it, Tully makes player development simple. The link to learn more about Tully is in the description.
Tempo became kind of our calling card. So if we can do a couple things well, and we can run them really fast, and we have great discipline, which our guys do, we thought we could put an offense together that would be pretty good. It has been for us.
Tools to help guide athletes in terms of what they want to be crafting in their heads in terms of what they can do to have success. Small examples of that are you can't have a positive thought and a negative thought at the same time. So we want to constantly train towards those positives. Focus on solutions instead of problems.
Some situations with our football team to try and create toughness, like we'll do a 1st and goal from the 8-yard line, and either the offense, if they score a touchdown, they win that segment. And I think we put our guys in game-like situations and create tough situations for them.
Welcome to the Hansen Ratings Coach and Coordinator of the Week, presented by Tully. Each week, we recognize the top head coach, offense coordinator, and defense coordinator performances across Division III football. Today, we're looking at our Week 3 honorees.
Yeah, it was another great week of Division III football, and we found another great group of coaches to highlight this week. This week in the division, there were 4 different matchups between top 25 teams, but the way that we're doing these grades and the way that we're trying to find coaches, it's not always going to be the top 25 teams that win these honors. And this week, all 3 of these coaches come from teams that are outside of the top 25, but they all had outstanding performances against some pretty good competition.
Logan, let's kick it off with our offensive coordinator of the week.
Our offensive coordinator of the week this week is J.B. Wells from Coast Guard. In their 92-60 win over Nichols, Coast Guard and Nichols set an NCAA record for total points. They piled up more than 700 yards of total offense, converted 80% of their third downs, and over half of their fourth downs. Even more impressive, though, is that they had 6 touchdown drives that took just 3 plays or fewer, and 5 of those drives went for 70 yards or longer. I mean, this has been talked about a lot by a lot of different people, but it deserves getting talked about as much as it has. 92 points in a football game is outrageous.
Pretty impressive. An incredible offensive showing. Congratulations to Coach J.B. Wells, our Hansen Ratings Offensive Coordinator of the Week, presented by Tully. Let's hear from J.B. now. We're here with Coach J.B. Wells, the Hansen Ratings Offensive Coordinator of the Week, presented by Tully for Week 3. Before we get into the idea that you're sharing today, J.B., can you talk about your staff and maybe the way they prepared your offense for this week's challenge?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. It's great to be here. It's an honor always to represent the Coast Guard in our football program. Yeah, so our staff, our head coach, C.C. Grant, coaches over on defense. So he kind of lets the offense kind of do what they want to do a little bit. When I was hired, he said he just wanted to be able to run the ball and score some points, and I think we've done that. But our staff is, we're kind of a unique situation here at Coast Guard. We're kind of short-staffed a little bit. We don't have a large staff. 3 of us are government employees, and one of us is what they call a NAFTE employee, which is a non-appropriated funds. They're paid out of a different pool. And then we have some volunteers, and it's kind of how we make up our staff. So offensively, I'm the coordinator and I coach the offensive line. Coach Kyle Smesko has been coaching for a long time too. Kyle is our quarterbacks coach. He works with the quarterbacks and does a great job. He's done an amazing job this year with a new kid having to step into some pretty big shoes. And then our receivers coach is Lieutenant Hudson Dunaway. Lieutenant Dunaway played here at the academy and then is active duty in the Coast Guard. He was assigned back to the academy as an instructor. And so now he is on campus as an instructor here at Coast Guard. And then he volunteers his time to come down. He referred to himself as the world's highest paid GA, but is a really, really good coach. Does a great job with our receivers and special teams and recruiting and everything. He just is really passionate because this is his life. The Coast Guard is his life. And then we have a running backs coach who's a retired Coast Guardsman, was a player here at the academy, instructor here, a longtime instructor here at the academy in engineering, retired and has been volunteering for the last, I think, 25 years here as the running backs coach, Pat Knowles. And then our tight ends coach is pretty unique. He is a volunteer from the United Kingdom. He's from Wales. And I'm friends with some guys over there. I have a lot of connections in the UK with British football. And Coach Kean made a request to come over, and through some friends, mutual friends, he's come over and he's volunteering his time. He's over here on a 3-month visa. And so he's going to coach the season and then head back. But he's been the tight ends coach at the University of West England. They've won 4 national championships over there. And he came over here because he wanted to try to do it. What he says, we wanted to do it for real. And he's getting all he can handle right now. So, but a really, really good young coach, great with technology, and does a really good job with the tight ends. So I got a great staff. They work their butts off and make my job a lot easier than it could be.
Awesome. Well, before we get into your idea again, as you know, we want to share an idea that can help our listeners. You had mentioned Tempo and the Scout Team solution. If you don't mind talking about that and sharing with our listeners, that would be great, JB.
Yeah, so when I got to Coast Guard, we're very, very limited on time. The guys have a lot of responsibilities here. And as one of the 4 military academies, us, and then our big brothers at Army, Navy, and Air Force, our time is kind of precious. So our guys' days are very, very, very segmented, where they have their academic time, they have military training time, and then they're given a block of time in the afternoon from about 4 to 6, that's athletic time. So we don't have the luxury of having meetings every single day. We're able to meet with them about 2 to 3 times a week. That's it. So we have to use some technology to kind of teach our guys. And so I knew coming in that we would not have a lot of time and that we wouldn't want to run anything too complex. So our offense is fairly simple. I don't think it's very complicated. We don't do a lot of things. We just try to do them really well. But one of the things that we're known for is that we're going to run at a high tempo. And it gives a place that our performance fitness, our physical fitness exam that the guys are given every year, they have to be in great shape. Typically, our linemen at the Coast Guard are not going to be as large as some of the lines that we go against. Although this year, I think we've grown up a group that's pretty big right now, but they're in tremendous shape. So I knew that I could take advantage of that. And so tempo became kind of our calling card. So if we can do a couple things well, and we can run them really fast, and we have great discipline, which our guys do, we thought we could put an offense together that would be pretty good. It has been for us. So things with us are all surrounded around tempo. How fast can we play and play well? So the first thing that we kind of talk about during the course of practice, just some practice ideas on if you want to go fast. The first thing is that we do a period every day before we go into individual called green deck. And green deck in the Coast Guard is, when they're getting the helicopters ready to fly out and save somebody's life in the middle of the ocean, when they get the helos all fired up and everybody's ready to go, that's called green deck. So green deck for us is, let's get lined up, let's go fast. And so it's an on-air period that we just march the ball from the 50 into the end zone in about 4 or 5 plays. And we just try to get the calls in from the sideline, go as fast as possible, and get the guys really kind of sweating and getting going. It's a good kind of way to start practice. But we would just usually line the balls up, and the guys would go 10 yards each clip, and that would be your period. But that's not reality. And I was finding that early on, our guys were having a hard time, I think, understanding the mechanics of tempo. And so what we did was is we took the backup quarterbacks. So if we had 3 quarterbacks that were rotating through groups, our starter would have the first group of offense, but our backup quarterback would be the umpire, would line up as the umpire and would place the ball. And then our third quarterback would become the line judge on the sideline. So you had 3 guys in red jerseys, so it's nice, they stand out. But it allowed our guys to kind of understand how the tempo mechanics work. The offensive line kind of operates off the center, and the center has to find the line judge. So he's working to the hash that the ball ended up on, but he's looking at the sideline for the line judge because they're marking where the ball's going to be. So our center got conditioned to look for the line judge. So now we have a line judge there. It's one of our quarterbacks. So our center's looking for the line judge. Our skill guys are all taught that they have to get the ball to the umpire, whether it's run it in and hand it to them if they're close, or a short toss. If they're not, we tell them no long throws. A lot of umpires are former linemen. They don't catch the ball real well, so we want to make sure we get the ball to them. If you can't get the ball to the umpire, our guys will get the ball to our center, and the center will give it to them. But we generally have that other quarterback. So that quarterback acts as the umpire. If the ball's not in his hands, he can't place the ball ready for play. So they mimic that real-time tempo. And if I want to go real fast, I'll just say go every 10 yards and we'll put a bunch of footballs down. But at the end of the day, I want it to be real. So that kind of starts our guys off with that mentality that this is how we play fast. And this is what the mechanics are playing fast for the line and for the skills. So that's kind of how we start with this green deck period. We'll go probably 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes, and try to get 3 groups through that as fast as we can. And then we're off to individual. Then as practice goes along, by the time we get down into like our team period where we at Coast Guard, because we have good numbers, we have about 90, 95 players, but we feel that like, I've always felt this as a head coach. When I was a head coach, I always wanted to kind of work my best players against my best players. My older players against my older players is probably a better way to look at it, right? And so anytime you're putting your first offense against your first defense, you're probably going to get better reps. It's going to be better competition. And there's times you want to do that, and there's times you don't want to do that. But for the most part, if we can go against our defensive group and not a scout group, we're probably going to get a better period. So I lobbied with the head coach to have team period 1 be offense will scout for the defense, we'll run our opponent's offense, and the defense will scout for the offense. And so then we have a second team period that's later on that's separate. But that period for us then becomes against scouts. And what we do is we line up 2 scout teams about 15, 20 yards apart. So we'll have a team, let's say, on the 40 and a team, let's say, on the 25. And our offense will bounce back and forth between those 2 groups. And they'll go as fast as they can. I can call the plays from the sideline. My quarterback's coach is running one defensive group. My tight end's coach is running the other group. And so they're going to work back and forth between the 2 groups. And we're going to go as fast as we can against 2 defenses. It allows us to get a lot of reps, but then you get into the problem of that everybody has, and I try to share this with as many. I didn't invent this. I picked it up. I think I got it from Matt Drinkall way back when he was at like Kansas Wesleyan. It was an idea, and I call it the scout team solution. And how many times a young coach, when you were a young coach, you had a scout card book, and you had to run the scout cards, and it was the worst job you ever had. Nobody's ever happy, right? They don't get lined up right. Can't you follow a line? It just drives you nuts. So what we did was we said, when we go to scout team, this is how we're going to run it. We're going to have the front 7. We're going to have them line up in the core look that we're going to get that week. So whether you got a 4-2 look or a 4-3 look or whatever, or you got a 3-4 look or a 3-3 stack, whatever it is, we tell them to line up in the core look. And then we give the guys instructions. So let's say we're just looking at a base 4-2 look. We tell the 2 interior tackles, we don't care where you line up. You can line up in a 3, a 2, a 2-eye. You can line up in a shade. The only thing we don't want is 2 shades. So while the team is going against the other front, you guys are talking about what you're going to do maybe. Hey, I'll be the 3, you be a 2-eye. Whatever. The defensive ends are told you're C-gap players. You can play loose, you can play tight, you can box, you can wrong arm, you can do whatever you want. So we just told those guys, just line up. Just get lined up. It's okay. No one's going to yell at you. Linebackers, you're reading the back of your side and you're playing football. So it's not like we're telling the linebackers they got these complicated reads. Read the guards, read this. No, just get out there and play football. It's like being in the backyard again. Then the coverage is called by the coach. And we call the coverages what our defense calls coverages. Cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, cover 1, cover blah, 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 right? So our defensive backs just play what they normally play. And if there's something special that they do that's different, our coaches can coach them up on that. And we can generally get something that resembles what we're going to see on Saturday. But even if it doesn't matter, because if you're playing at a high tempo, they're not going to line up right anyway. So it's always where, geez, we thought the 3 technique was going to be with the tight end, and the kid lines up in a 2-eye. Well, you got to block it. So it's a little bit of chaos theory with that, where it's like just chaos. Now, this week, I was just saying to John that we've got a team that's going to play a little bit of both. They play some 3 down, they play some 4 down. So one huddle is going to be 3 down, one huddle is going to be 4 down, and we're going to run as many plays as we can in that team period, going back and forth. And then I'm going to coach them off the film. And that to us on a Tuesday has been tremendous for us. And then we'll use those things. We'll use that kind of scout team solution whenever we have to have a scout team, because I just got tired of yelling at guys. I got tired of being mad all the time at kids that they were never going to be right. And that it would make those kids miserable. And I don't want those kids to be miserable. I want them to be happy about playing scout team and giving us a great look. And this allows them to give us a better look. It's realistic for the game. So we're trying to mirror what we're going to see on Saturday. Hey, when we get into green deck, let's get some mechanics going so we understand how it works to go fast. All right, when we go to scout team, let's go fast in scout team and get as many reps as we can and get us working when we're tired. But we don't wear out the defense. So they're fresh, so we get great looks. And I think that those things kind of put together have allowed us to be a team that runs a lot of plays. We're going to be one of the top teams in the country in amount of plays run. And to me, tempo is all about, like, the more swings you get at it, the more chances you have to hit a home run. So that's kind of been our philosophy here. If anybody wants any more information on that, they can certainly reach out to me, and I'll send you, like, the little slides that I have when I teach it to the guys. Like I said, it's not rocket science. I didn't invent it. Give a shout out to Matt Drinkall, all those years ago, sharing that with me. And it's made us a better tempo team.
I love the scout team solution, JB. You're right. It seems like you're constantly yelling at the scout team players to get lined up right and go to the right spot. And you've solved all that, which I think is phenomenal. My one question about the offense going back and forth, are they run a play this way, then turn around and run the play that way? So the offense is in the middle between the two defenses. Is that correct?
Correct. And sometimes it's a long run for a receiver. Because if he catches a ball 10 yards down, like if we run a pass and he catches a deep ball, well, sometimes we'll say, hey, that's a deep ball, get the other guy, and another guy will run on. And we generally don't want to, like in a game, you wouldn't do that. But for the sake of time and speed, if it's a ball over like 20 yards, get the next guy on, and then he'll just rotate back in when we hit the other thing and then keep going back and forth. So It's good too. I think, like, because receivers are the ones that sub, if we keep the receivers coach on the sideline with me where he is on Saturday, he can sub those guys in. And so it kind of helps with the substitutions and stuff like that. A running back busts a long run. It makes practice interesting, and it gets us what we need.
I think that's great information. I think it's a great solution to some of the issues that you have at the Coast Guard Academy. And it is important to get enough reps and enough work and not have to spend all your time getting the scout team lined up. So great stuff, JB. We appreciate you taking the time and sharing with us. Again, congratulations to you and the staff on a great win and putting up a lot of points. And we wish you the best as the season progresses. And thanks again for your time.
Thanks, John. It's great to see you. And thanks to Keith for having me on, and Hansen for this honor. It certainly can't be done without other people. It's never a one-man operation in football. That's why our game is so great. Not any one person can dominate the game by himself. And all the credit goes to my coaching staff and obviously to the players, because we've got some great players here. And to score 92, I didn't score any of those points. I didn't throw one block. So they did it all. It was tremendous.
Well, again, it's a great job.
In this week's segment from our presenting sponsor, Tully, we hear from Adam Redmond, former NFL offensive lineman, Harvard graduate, and co-founder of Tully, along with Matt Redmond, strength and conditioning coach at Walsh Jesuit High School in Ohio. They share how the in-season mindset is all about precision, urgency, and keeping athletes ready for the playoff push.
So transitioning from the off season, spring and summer testing and looking for growth and development, how does that mindset change for you going into in season, where now it's about maintenance, keeping kids healthy, and obviously getting prepared for a playoff push?
I think the important thing to consider is we're not usually going to foster a wholesale shift in what we're trying to accomplish in season versus preseason or off season. We are looking to develop these athletes all the time. And so what Tully lets us do is be very efficient and very precise with our training. So in season, the sense of urgency is ratcheted up because there's no room for error. At this point in the year, if you fall behind, if athletes are starting to lose body weight and you're not on top of it, if we're not getting our work in, if we're not reaching our goals, hitting our rep ranges that we're supposed to, there's no getting it back. We just don't have the time. Things happen in season when sometimes lifts get canceled or cut short. Priorities are totally realigned. And so what Tully lets us do is ensure that we are on top of those details without question every single time the kids come in. It lets us be very precise, so we know exactly how much weight is on the back of every one of our athletes, which is always something that we do, but when we're in season, we're even more on top of that. I'm walking around with a live data application up on a tablet or a computer, interacting with the athletes, ensuring they put the right loading on the bar, and then watching that data filter in as they complete their sets and put their numbers in on their phones.
That was Adam and Matt Redman with great insight on in-season training. For so many high school and D3 programs, being short-staffed makes it hard to stay on top of every rep and every athlete. That's where Tully comes in. It gives you another set of eyes, tracking the details automatically so nothing slips through the cracks. Even with limited staff, you can keep your players healthy, strong, and ready on Friday night. Learn more at tully.app.
Our defensive coordinator of the week is Daniel Fields from Lewis and Clark. His defense delivered a 21-3 win over Pomona Pitzer, holding the Sagehens to just 4 yards per play. They came up big in key moments, stopping Pomona Pitzer on all 4 fourth down attempts, and the defense finished with 7 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss, an interception, and 2 more pass breakups, helping Lewis and Clark to their first 3-0 start in 14 years.
Another outstanding performance, Logan. Great effort from Coach Fields and his defensive unit. Congratulations to Coach, our Hansen Ratings Defense Coordinator of the Week, presented by Tully. Let's go to our conversation with Dan Fields. Joining us now is Coach Daniel Fields, the Hansen Ratings Defensive Coordinator of the Week, presented by Tully for Week 3. Coach, congratulations. Strong team win and outstanding performance for you, your staff, and your players.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
It's great having you, Daniel. As you know, defense takes all 11, and we asked as part of the show that you share a little bit about how your staff work together. If you want to give some props to your staff, feel free to do that now, and then we'll get into your idea that you'll share.
Well, our defensive staff is a young staff. First year altogether, we have one member of our staff who's a former player for me at Lewis and Clark, Rusty Nazoy, who helps me with the defensive line. And then we've got Austin Jones, Andy O'Rourke, and Tyler Good, who are all first year here at Lewis and Clark. We've actually changed over our staff all 3 years due to retirements, due to guys getting new opportunities, due to guys getting new jobs. And so it's been really fun to kind of come together and mesh as a really young staff. I think the most experienced Coach Jones has worked in Europe a little bit. He's been in coaching for over 15 years, but he's still 30-some-odd-year-old guy. I'm 30 years old as the defensive coordinator, so we might be the youngest and shortest staff in major college football. But we have a blast together, and one of the things that I really love we do with our staff is they have a coordinator period on Wednesdays. It's our last team period of Wednesdays where I give it to them and they get to kind of craft up some offensive plays of things that we could anticipate the opponent trying to get to off of their main top plays, maybe tricks, maybe just another run scheme that could give the front that we're running some issues. And I give it to them and don't want to see it, don't want to know. All I want to know is what's the down and distance you're telling me, what personnel's on the field, and I'll call it from the sideline and kind of make it like a game environment and also just be competitive for them. So our defensive staff has been outstanding and they do a great job, work their butts off, only a 5-man staff. So it's been really fun to get to know them well, get to grind with them. And obviously it's tremendous for them to experience success that the players have earned for us on the field.
Well, as you know, staff chemistry is awfully important. And it's great to hear that you guys get along and have fun together because you spend a lot of time together. You got to have some fun. So, well, for our coaches that are listening, Daniel, if you don't mind sharing a defensive principle or something that you guys do that you want to share with our listeners that they can learn from, we certainly appreciate that and feel free to share with everyone.
Absolutely. So one of the earliest expectations that we set out for our defense is be early, pay attention, and play your ass off when we ask you to. And that stems from my great uncle, coach for the Raiders in the 1970s, John Madden. And so that was one of the earliest influences in me in coaching. And that is his rule when he was coaching the Raiders in the 70s and something that I took here to Lewis and Clark. And it really keeps things simple for the players, right? If they're not early in the meetings, if they're not prepared, if they're not locked in when we're training and when we're working, then they're missing the point of our expectations. And if you're not playing your ass off, you aren't going to be on the field. Very simple as that. And so what we'll do from there is really try and lay things out to help them with that. Okay, what do I mean by helping them with that? It starts with something I got from Don Pelham, who I worked with at UCLA, and that's principles of mental management. And what those are just 10 tools to help guide athletes in terms of what they want to be crafting in their heads in terms of what they can do to have success. Small examples of that are you can't have a positive thought and a negative thought at the same time. So we want to constantly train towards those positives. When those negative thoughts come out, we want to train them to work towards how can I turn that into a positive? Focus on solutions instead of problems. Another one that I think has been huge for us is self-image is equal to self-performance. And teaching the guys that we're going to push you as a coaching staff. We're going to push you harder than you've ever been pushed in high school coming into college. You're going to get pushed high academics at Lewis and Clark. You're going to get pushed a ton in the classroom. The person that you have to constantly be propping yourself up is yourself, right? Us coaches are going to challenge you. You need to be believing in the result, believing in what you can become as a player, believing in as a unit what we can become as a defense. Other ones that I really like leaning on are edit your life so your life does not edit you. I got that one from Jerry Azanero, who was our defense coordinator at UCLA when I first was GAing. And it's so true, and it's something that you've got to constantly be trimming out the people in your life or the things in your life that aren't helping you achieve that goal that you set as a player. And so that falls into the pay attention aspect. If you can't pay attention, a lot of that comes down to outside noise that's distracting you. And so giving them those tools is really huge for us to build out success. And then the final one that we use, and we actually, when we take the field, we break on this, is longer, stronger. So the longer we go, the stronger we get as a defensive unit. So we'll always go longer, stronger, longer, stronger, longer, stronger. And then I'll say all gas, and they'll say no brakes. And that comes from, I was fortunate enough when I was a young kid to meet Greg Knapp, who has since passed, tremendous coach in the NFL, tremendous mentor of mine, who has a tremendous family. Loved his daughter, Jordan, who's tremendous help to me in my coaching career. But that aspect of leave it all out there, right? We've prepared. We know what they're going to do. And it just resets the guys before we take that field. And it all goes into that aspect of, hey, be early, pay attention, and then play your ass off. Right? That longer, stronger, longer, stronger, longer, stronger, all gas, no brakes. When we take that field, just to remind them, hey, now's that time, right? We talked about it all year. This is the third thing we're asking you to do is play your ass off. Now's that time to let loose. And I think it's really helped our guys kind of focus in the moment. And I think it's important to have some tools of, okay, here's our expectations. Here's what we want you to do as an athlete here. Now, what can I do to help put you in position to have success there?
I love that. Longer, stronger. You could turn that around. Stronger, longer.
Yeah.
We go longer, stronger than anybody else. I love that idea, that concept. And some of those other things, edit your life so your life doesn't edit you. Some really good thoughts there, Daniel. And I'm kind of curious as to when are you teaching some of those things? Is that a preseason stuff that you're taking these guys through? Is that something that weekly you have a different thing that you present to them? How would just, in terms of your season, when are you teaching some of those concepts?
Yeah, so we'll go over all those, not only during spring ball, but also fall camp and also in season. So in fall camp, when we go to unit meetings, normally what we'll do is we'll handle some housekeeping stuff that needs to be cleaned up. We'll watch some film. We'll go over that principle of mental management on a daily basis in that unit meeting. And so they get those 10 throughout training camp. Obviously, Division III training camp's much more shrunk down than at the Division I levels. So it's kind of fits in perfectly to the amount of true days that you have unit meetings. And then we will go through them throughout the year, just kind of spaced out depending on whatever the focus of the week is or depending on whatever we as a defensive staff see, okay, we need to re-hit this aspect. Especially we're going into a bye week this week, so we'll probably cover a majority of those principal mental managements. And what's nice over the years is as you get different things from different sources, whether it's videos online, nowadays you have so much access to great things from other athletes, you can pull those and box them into those. So not only is it the principle, but you'll also have some videos of like Kobe Bryant talking about his mentality. You can have greats from other industries. You can pull from TED Talks. You can pull from other coaches talking about the mentality. We have some John Wooden videos of what he would talk about, Bill Walton talking about John Wooden, and make each day your masterpiece. All these little things that you can pull in as resources for the kids, because we all know nowadays their attention span is like that. So you better have something to grab them. And that's one of the things we use these principal mental management for, is a hook in the meeting to remind them of, okay, here's what I really need to be focusing on. What you find is if you get to the end of your meeting and you go ask them, hey, check for understanding from the meeting, what are some takeaways? 90% of our takeaways are from that principal mental management talk. They aren't from all the stuff you went over in film. They may have some corrections in there, but a lot more of what the kids grab onto is the stuff that's going to help get their heads in the right spot to perform. And so that's been a huge part of what I learned as a young coach, and then something that's really carried over to our student athletes.
Mental management. Love it, Daniel. Thanks again. Thanks for giving us your time. And we want to wish you the best as the season continues, and hope that we see you have continued success.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Have a great one.
Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with this plight? Aha! Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at canva.com.
This week, our head coach of the week is Chad Braun from Monmouth. His team earned a 49-6 win over Lake Forest, outgaining them 412 to 250 yards. Monmouth was a perfect 6 for 6 in the red zone, and the defense held Lake Forest to just 2 field goal attempts on their own red zone trips. They had some outstanding individual performances as well. They had a wide receiver who scored 4 touchdowns, and a defensive back, Derek Chandler, who blocked 2 punts, and the defense racked up 9 tackles for a loss. It was the worst margin of defeat for Lake Forest since 2022, which was to the eventual national champion North Central.
A huge win, especially considering his quest for a conference championship. A win over Lake Forest is a big step in that process. Now let's hear from Coach Braun. We're here with Monmouth head coach Chad Braun, the Hansen Ratings head coach of the week, presented by Tully for week 3. Coach, congratulations on a big win and an outstanding performance for you, your staff, and your players.
Yeah, thanks, John. Really appreciate it. I just want to give hats off to, first off, our offensive coordinator, Joe Freitag. He's, been with me the whole time that I've been here as the head coach since 2015, and does a great job preparing our offense week in, week out throughout the year and getting those guys ready to play. Very fortunate to have great coaches on our staff. Cooper Gosh, our defensive line coach, does a terrific job. Nate Graham, our wide receiver coach. Will Hampton, our linebackers coach. Our running back coach, Andy Davis, he's a volunteer assistant, does a great job. And then Derek Braun is a new offensive line coach for us. He played here for us in his first year as the offensive line coach, and we moved Coach Freitag, who had been the O-line coach here for several years, to coaching quarterbacks this year, and he's rejuvenated doing that. And then Phil Pullen is another guy that volunteers, helps our special teams, and just really, all their hard work, preparation, going into game week in, week out, they do a lot for our football program.
We appreciate, and we know you appreciate your staff as well. As a head coach, Chad, obviously you've had great success, and as a head coach, you typically have your hands in all areas of the program. You mentioned that toughness still matters is a topic that you like to talk about. How about sharing that with our coaches out there and listeners?
Yeah, kind of looking back at last year, all 3 games that we lost, the rushing battle. The team that runs for more yards, is physical up front, usually wins the football game. And I know it's not always the case, but in our case last year, we had three really close, tough losses last year. And every game we outrushed our opponent, we won, So that was, kind of a theme going into this year with our football program is that, we generally, when we're the more physical football team up front, we're a tough football team. We usually win football games. And so today's day and age, with all the contact rules and all that, how do you still coach toughness and keep your players healthy and do those things? And, we try and, especially in camp, you have a few days where you can go full contact, and we're still going to tackle to the ground on those days and not the whole practice, but we're going to have some particular segments where you want to be a great tackling football team. You have to tackle. You have to practice it. I don't care how much you practice it without going to the ground. If you don't eventually go to the ground, you're not going to be very good at it. So we do some situations with our football team to try and create toughness, and we'll do a first and goal from the 8-yard line. And either the offense, if they score a touchdown, they win that segment. The defense holds them out, they win that segment. And I think we put our guys in game-like situations and create tough situations for them. And then, we want to see what our guys are made of. We play a tough schedule. We played Warburg to start the year. We're not going to shy away from good competition. We want to play tough physical football teams to get us ready to play our conference schedule. And coming away from that game, we lost the game, obviously 21-7. It was a good football game. We were 7-7 in the third quarter, and we threw a pick, and they kind of pulled away late on us. But I felt like coming away from that football game, I watched our team play and I watched the physicality in which we played that game. And I was like, I'm not sure I want to play us. If I'm watching us on film, we were getting after people up front in the O-line. We're pancaking people. We're moving people up front. Defensively, we're flying around, hitting people. So I knew we had a pretty good ball club at that point. And so we're going to put our guys in situations where we create toughness, kind of our practice schedule throughout the week. On Tuesdays, we're going to practice first down, 1st and 10, second medium situations. And we always include a good on good session there. We always put our good players versus our good players, at least for a 5-minute segment. And I take a ton of stock in what we do good versus good, right? Like, obviously, we're going to watch film and evaluate what we do versus our scout teams. But I really want to see the speed of the game and put our really good players against our really good players so they can get a good look and put those guys in competitive situations. And then, moving it into Wednesday, we're going to do more red zone and goal line and then third down situations. And again, we'll have a couple segments where we go good on good. We'll do a red zone throughout the year. Now at that point, we're not full pads. We're taking the ball at the 18-yard line, but it's still good versus good. And if the offense scores a touchdown, they win that segment. If the defense holds them out, they win that segment. And so it's a competitive situation. And our guys learn to be tough and competitive and compete in those situations. And I think it gets them ready to play on Saturday. And then we'll also on that Wednesday do a third down segment where they're competing, and we do 5 plays. Like, if the offense wins 3, they win that segment. You can't tie with 5, right? Like, either somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. And so we're going to put our guys in just, some competitive situations and see how they come out of that.
Chad, on your Tuesday practice, I'm assuming you're full pad on Tuesdays?
Once we get to the season, we don't go full pads at all. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're in shells all 3 of those days. Before our first game, we might be in full pads on Wednesday when we're doing that red zone goal line situation. But after that, we're staying up, but we're studying up in those periods where, there's no tagging off, you better have a kid thudded up in that period. And if they tag off, the offense is scoring a touchdown, So our guys have done a great job learning how to fit up and without going to the ground too at times, throughout the season, because we want to keep our guys create toughness, but we also want to keep our guys healthy too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm assuming that those days where you're just in helmets and shoulder pads, that you're not going full contact, taking people to the ground, but you're really trying to teach your players how to still play hard and competitive in those situations, but be smart about not getting people hurt, because that is important. There's that fine line between being competitive and keeping guys healthy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to toe that line, it is a very fine line. But yeah, we want to teach our guys to play hard, compete, but also, we talk about protecting the team, right? And you'll see our guys, some of those situations, they might have a shot to really light a guy up and they're going to hold up and because it's their teammate, and we're going to know as coaches, hey, you were there, you were going to make that play, so you got to be smart about how you do it. Our guys are super competitive. They hate to lose any of those situations, and they're going to compete like heck. But yeah, they're also going to be smart on their teammates and not cheap a teammate. Just do their job, do it as hard as they can, and compete for that situation.
I love that concept, Chad. Protect the team. And if the kids remember that in a competitive period, they won't, cheap shot anybody. They won't take somebody to the ground because the overall idea is be competitive, but protect the team. I love that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think, protecting the team can apply to a lot of different situations. It can apply to, you see a teammate out doing what he's not supposed to be doing on a Saturday night. I think it encompasses a lot of things. But yeah, especially on the field, we want our guys to compete like heck and we want them to fight for situations and be competitive. But at the end of the day, that's your teammate out there. You got to respect them. And there's times when we know you're going to make a play and it's not about you, it's about the team and what's best for your teammate in that situation. And our guys do a great job of doing that.
Coach, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of the way. And again, just appreciate your time.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you having us on. And, our mentality, obviously, our goal is not to be 2-1. That was a big hurdle we got on Saturday, but we're on to the next one. Our job's not finished. And that's the mentality of our players. And, this week's our bye week. We don't call it a bye week. It's a work week for us. We're going to go back to work and we're going to continue to get better this week. But I really appreciate the honor and thanks for having me on, John.
It's great having you, Chad. Thanks. That wraps up our Week 3 Hansen Ratings Coach and Coordinator of the Week presented by Tully. Congratulations once again to our honorees, Offense Coordinator J.B. Wells, Defense Coordinator Daniel Fields, and Head Coach Chad Braun. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week with more outstanding performances from across Division III football.
Thank you for listening to Coaching Coordinator Network Hansen Ratings D3 Coaching Coordinators of the Week show. We'll be back again next week with our week honorees. Be sure to check out our presenting sponsor, Tully.app. Go to their website and see all the things that they are doing. Definitely something that can help you as a coach, whether you're at the high school level or the D3 level, in managing your athletes and their development.